Welcome to our 15th anniversary mega test. This is the class of 2021. Well, select members of the class of 2021. Someone has to do the dirty work to put them through their paces after all. That's why we're at the BIC, and that's what we're going to do during this mega test. So let the games begin. Two standouts for me this year have to be from these two Indian manufacturers, Tata Motors and Mahindra. Both the Punch and the XUV700 have been absolutely incredible. I shouldn't say surprising because the initial reports of both these vehicles have been extremely positive, but this is the first time I've got my hands on either of them, and they have lived up to expectations and more. Both these cars are generations, miles ahead of previous generations of vehicles from Tata Motors and Mahindra. They are really well engineered. Everything from the drivetrain to the quality, to the fit and finish, to the steering position, to the gauges, the small little things, the little basics, which in the past maybe you could have pointed a finger at. Both Tata Motors and Mahindra have got these two machines right on the button. And with the pricing of both these cars, you can be sure that you will be seeing a lot of them, and I mean a lot of them, on the roads very soon.
The best of every year's awards at AutoX are a very big event. We gather the latest cars of that year, evaluate them, the whole jury evaluates them on a very wide perspective, looks at them from various angles, whether it's value for money, whether it's looks, whether it's comfort, whether it's driving appeal, and then gives the top 5 cars of the year their individual awards. But that's a collective decision. What do I, Ishan Raghava, think of this year's cars? Well, at the AutoX Awards, I bring you my personal top 5 of 2021. First up, and this was certainly a surprise for me, the Tata Punch. I'm still not sold on the design. I think it's a bit of a mishmash between a crossover and a hatchback, but it drives really well on the track, on the road, and I think in its segment, it's going to be a very tough competitor, and the other competitors should really worry about the Punch. If they price it well, it could be a really good hit. Continuing on the surprises of the year, the second surprise also comes from the Tata stable, well, Jaguar Land Rover, the Jaguar I-Pace. I was not sold on the styling till I saw it in person, and this fetching red shade. The I-Pace is quirky looking, but it looks really great. It has a presence that other electric cars somehow miss. The other big thing, it is a hoot to drive on track and on the road. The instant torque, the acceleration the I-Pace gives you, it is addictive, and I think it's been a fantastic experience driving the I-Pace on the track, on the road, and evaluating it this year. Another special mention, the I-Pace, the interiors are fantastic, the seats are amazing. So if you get a chance to get a ride in the I-Pace or even sit in it, don't miss out on it. While I'm done with the surprises, I was expecting the Taygun and the Kushaq to be part of the best 5 of this year. Ever since I've driven both of them on the road, I know they're phenomenal to drive, and on the track it proved to be even more so. The engine's really progressive, the chassis is fantastic, and the Taygun simply flows across the track. Another mention, the manual gearbox in the Taygun is fantastically good, and again, if you can drive it, do get your hands on the Taygun manual. It's a driving experience to remember, especially in the affordable vehicle segment. Continuing on the predictable theme, I had driven the S-Class earlier this year, and the S-Classes have always been technological tour de forces. This is no different. It's phenomenal to drive. In fact, the biggest aspect of the S-Class that has improved in this generation, with the rear wheel steering, sitting inside, it actually feels like C-Class to drive. You don't simply realize you're driving something that's longer than 5 meters. And of course, there's the technology. The headlights are phenomenal. It drives like a dream. You're completely isolated from the outside world. In fact, both days of our test, in the evening, I've stolen the keys to the S-Class to drive it home, sat in it, turned on the massage function, and had an absolute blast driving back home after a long and tiring day. Yes, it might be cliched, but it's the best luxury car in the world. But with this new S, I truly think it is. With the DBX, I really didn't know what to expect, but I have to say it really knocked me out of the park with its performance. I think the DBX is a great looking design. I really love the ducktail tailgate design. It looks fantastic. It goes like absolute hell. That 542 horsepower, that V8 and that noise it makes, even, you know, the blow-off valves of the turbo from the outside, they're really loud, and that adds to the driving experience. And on the track, it drives like no SUV deserves to drive. Center of gravity is low, it turns in, it tries to oversteer all the time. Amazing experience, and a car I would buy in a heartbeat. So that rounds up my top 5 of best of 2021.
So the 1 crore EV battles begin here, the Jaguar I-Pace and the Audi e-tron. The only thing we're missing is the Mercedes-Benz EQC, which was launched last year, so we had it here a year ago. But one of the reasons we bring these cars to the racetrack, even though they're really not meant for the BIC, is because it's really revealing when you push them to the limit. If you drive them on the road, the I-Pace feels way more athletic versus the e-tron, which feels a lot more sensible. But when you push them on the track, the time difference between these two cars, believe it or not, is a tenth of a second when you push them around the short loop of the BIC. And that's because the e-tron is supremely capable. The I-Pace feels really athletic, it feels special, arguably looks more special too, so it's only fitting that it's in this shade of bright red. The e-tron is more your everyday EV, but it is supremely refined and supremely capable. The problem is, as I said at the very start, is that they are 1 crore each. So here's hoping that this technology filters down into more accessible machines sooner rather than later. The trouble is, they both have battery packs that weigh between 6 to 700 kilos, and they both have really expensive materials from lithium ion to rare earth metals. So we need to get all that technology to become way more accessible and way more affordable. As it stands today, they have 0 emissions, at least at the tailpipe, so from that point of view, they're super green and also, as we've just proven, super fast.
This time round at the AutoX Awards, we had an extremely good lineup of cars as well. We had the Aston Martin DBX, which clocked the fastest time around the short loop that we've been using over the past couple of years. And of course, another car that has always impressed us is the Audi RS5. We've had this in the coupe iteration before, and back then too, it had won top honors in our best of awards. This time around though, we have the 4-door iteration, which makes it a little more practical, and it is a little more usable as well. The thing that we love the most about the RS5 is that although it makes just about 444 bhp, which isn't quite a lot considering the other sports cars that are available in the market, but it all boils down to how usable this power is, whether you're driving it around the circuit right here or even if you're driving it out on the road as well. But there were quite a few surprises as well. For example, the Audi S5, which is substantially cheaper than the Audi RS5 right here, was just a second and a half slower than the RS5, which made the S5 phenomenal value and phenomenal performance for the price that you pay. And then of course there was the BMW 340i xDrive as well, and that was just half a second slower than the Audi RS5 right here. And that makes this whole equation quite interesting. While the RS5 is of course quicker of these three cars, you just can't discount the M340i and the S5 just as yet, especially given that the price that you pay for both those cars as well.
With a lineup of the year's finest cars featuring petrol engines, diesel engines, front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and now even electric power plants, the competition at the AutoX Best of 2021 was absolutely fierce. But remember, only the top 5 cars of the year get an award, which makes the rivalry even more intense. Watch out for our social media channels as we announce the final winners of the AutoX Best of 2021 tomorrow, 17th November.